מה זה, מה הוא עושה?
And that gentleman from the Haredi world. Shalom uvracha. This evening, here in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, we study together Parashat Ki Tisa. At the very end of the section of study this week, we read, Moshe lo yada ki karan or panav b'dabbero ito. Moshe was unaware of the fact that the skin of his face had become radiant when God had spoken to him. There was a special divine glow on the face of Moshe. And at the end of the parasha, we read of the details of the results of this particular Keren Or. The shine was so great that there's even a discussion in our parasha of a certain type of mask that Moshe wore on his face occasionally, for the radiance had caused the people to distance themselves from our great teacher Moshe. According to the tradition quoted in the Zohar, the shining countenance of Moshe was a reward given to him for his tireless defense of the Jewish people after the tragic sin of the golden calf spoken of in our parasha. The Zohar Chadash Shir Hashirim Daf Ayin Zayin, the Zohar teaches that God rewarded Moshe because diruta delay, because the true will of God is connected to the person that defends the Jewish people. Man de olif sanegoria abanoi, the one who speaks defense arguments in favor of God's children, in favor of the Jewish people. Minalan, where do we see this? Asks the Zohar. Mi Moshe. We see this from the teachings of our great leader Moshe. This talek bisliku, because he was elevated to great levels of elevation. Al de'oliv schu alayu Yisrael, because he defended the Jewish people. Hadahu dichtiv. That's why we read. That's what it means when we study in our parasha. Moshe lo yada ki karan or panav. Moshe was unaware of this radiance. Matai istalik li karada. When did he reach this level of greatness? When did he have this great glow? Kad chavu Yisrael, when the Jewish people sinned. V'olif alayu zechu, and Moshe spoke words of defense in favor of the Jewish people. It seems that Moshe is Rabbeinu. Moshe is our teacher, not merely with the laws of the Torah, with the hundreds and hundreds of categories of laws, with the thousands of details of laws, but Moshe is our teacher in terms of how to respond to situations where people are not necessarily doing that which they're supposed to be doing. Vayichal Moshe, we read in Parashat Ki Tisa. Moshe pleaded with God. Lama Hashem yecharei apecha ba'amecha. Why should you be enraged against your people, God? Asher hotzeita meretz Mitzrayim. You took them out of Egypt. Asks the Midrash, what is Moshe saying? You took them out of Mitzrayim. We know that God took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Anyone who's studied the book of Exodus knows the most basic story in the whole book is the story of the redemption from Egypt. Why is Moshe mentioning Asher Hotzeita Meretz Mitzrayim in speaking and pleading in behalf of the Jewish people right after the sin of the golden calf? You could say, Asher would say to Meretz Mitzrayim, God, you put so much effort into them. You put so much energy, so to speak, into them. You invest into them. It's to such an extent, you're not going to let them go right now. You're going to destroy them now. That's one approach. But the Midrash teaches in Shemot Rabbah, Mem Gimel Het, Mara Allah Haskir Kan Yitziat Mitzrayim. Why did Moshe mention Yitziat Mitzrayim? What does that have to do with the story? They sinned with the golden calf. They were involved in a form of idolatry. El Amar Moshe, rather, says the Midrash, Moshe was arguing and pleading, Ribona Olamim, Master of the world. Are you aware of the background of these people? Do you know where they're coming from? They're coming from a land of idolatry. Of course they made an Egel Hazahav. Of course they were involved in a golden calf. Asher Hotzeita me Eretz Mitzrayim. Me Chan Hotzeita Otam. Where'd you take them from? You didn't take them from this land of purity. You didn't take them. They didn't descend. They didn't exit a land of holiness. Lomi Mitzrayim. Shayu Kulam of Deitlayim. They were all worshiping certain forms of animal worship, or images of sheep, or other forms. Of course, they took an ox, a calf, and they made an idol out of it. Ribon Ha'olam, Master of the world. Why did you put them in Egypt? What are they doing in Egypt? Hinachta kol ha'olam, v'lo shibanta banecha elav Mitzrayim, shayu ovdim tzlaim. God says Moshe, you put them in an environment of idolatry. And your children were influenced. Yes? Is it chutzpah? And maybe it's chutzpah for me to speak this way in the name of Moshe, because maybe I'm not portraying Moshe correctly. No. I'll have to be more careful. There is a concept in Kabbalah and Chassidut of azut the kedusha, of holy chutzpah. I don't know. I mean, the Gemara talks about how careful a person has to be with certain arguments that they use with God, and maybe I'm going to try to speak soon. Maybe about Rav Levi Yitzchak of Bardisha. You've heard of him? Like maybe many hundreds of years later, maybe there's a certain level of closeness to Hashem, where if you're doing it not for yourself, but you're doing it to defend the Jewish people, maybe you're allowed to speak in a certain way. Although the rabbis do teach, right? A person shouldn't shoot words at God. But in that very same text, they talk about some of the greatest people in the world history, who spoke. What? Chana, Eliyahu. There's a whole teaching in Masachet Brachot, right? But I accept your comment, and maybe I'm saying it, not in the way. Maybe Moshe said it much more respectfully than me, and maybe I accept your teaching. Thank you. Ribon Ha'olam. Ribon Ha'olam, Master of the world. Hinachta kol ha'olam, v'lo shibanta banecha l'Mitzrayim, shayu avdim tzlaim. You put them in an environment. We believe, of course, a person cannot just blame their environment, right? A person has free will, but there are environmental influences. So the environmental influence of hundreds of years in Mitzrayim is avodah zarah. V'lamdu mehem banecha v'afhem asu egel. Da meichan hotzeita otam. V'yichal Moshe asher hotzeita meretz Mitzrayim. Remember the people. You have to take into consideration. If someone comes from a certain type of problematic background, that's very important to take into consideration when you're considering punishing them. Where are they coming from? What have they been exposed to? The Midrash lists several arguments that Moshe employed to defend the Jewish people. Amongst them, when God seems to tell Moshe that they violated the most basic teachings of the Ten Commandments. Commandment number 1, I am the Lord your God. It means I and no one else, right? Lo yeh lecha Elohim achirim. You can't have other gods. Lo ta'aseh lecha fesel v'chol tzmuna. In a brilliant discourse, which I'll try to say as respectfully as possible because of your great comment, Moshe says, God, let's analyze carefully what you said in the Ten Commandments. You didn't use the plural form. You said, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Not Anochi Hashem Elokechem. Maybe he was all directed to me, says Moshe. Lo yelcha. This is the Midrash. The Midrash Rabbah explaining Moshe's word. Lo yelcha Elohim acherim. You, Moshe, you singular. You should not have any other God. Lo taselecha. You, Moshe. But maybe others, maybe they're not included. That's why the Midrash says, that's why we find so many times after this in the Torah, so often the Torah uses the word Ani Hashem, Elokechem, plural, in contrast to Anochi Hashem Elokecha. You know what? Yeah, so, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is the definition of a Jewish leader. Maybe someone who really knows how to speak words of righteousness of the Jewish nation. And maybe when people are trying to point to certain failures in the Jewish community, they find mitigating circumstances, they find explanations to help alleviate some of that guilt. The greatest teacher that I've ever heard in this area, that I've heard written about, I've read some of his teachings and some stories about him, is Rav Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, one of the most outstanding Hasidic masters, who was known to defend the Jewish people in all circumstances. And I think each of us, in his or her own way, should strive to be a student in this area of Rav Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev. There are many, many stories. I don't know. Remember the story about this man who's praying mincha. This is a wagon driver, and somewhere in the middle of Barditchev, he's praying mincha, and he's smearing oil on the wheels of the wagon as he's praying mincha. In the middle of the Amidah, in the middle of the Shmoneh Esrei, he's taking the oil and he's smearing it all over the front wheels, the back wheel. So someone walks by and says, it's so disgusting. Look at this man, in the middle of the Amidah, in the middle of his prayers, he's smearing oil on his wagon. And Rav Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev said, that's not the way to view it. Look how holy he is. Look how holy our nation is. Even at the time when he's smearing oil on the wheels of his wagon, he's talking to God. And he's connecting on the highest level of communication of the Amidah. So that's the way you're supposed to speak. That's the Quran or Panav. You want your shine to face? You want your shine to face. You want your face to shine. Yeah. You want a certain level. You want a certain level of excellence. You want a certain level of brilliance on your face. You want God to shine God's light upon you. So you have to see the light of the Jewish nation. So many people are portraying them as being in the dark. You have to bring out that light. And Moshe brought out that light, and therefore his face was aglow with great light. So there was this man smoking in the streets of Barditchev on Yom Kippur. There was also Shabbat. So he goes openly in the middle of Barditchev, smoking. So Rav Levi Yitzchak supposedly goes over to him and says, you probably don't know today is Shabbat. He says, Rebbe, is there anybody in Barditchev who doesn't know today's Shabbat? So maybe you don't know that you're not allowed to smoke on Shabbat. Rebbe, do you think there's anyone in Barditchev who doesn't know that you're not allowed to smoke on Shabbat? So probably you forgot that today is Yom Kippur. I mean, Barditchev, Yom Kippur, everyone knows today is Yom Kippur. So perhaps you forgot that on Yom Kippur it's prohibited to smoke. He says, Rebbe, there's not one Jew in Barditchev who thinks you're allowed to smoke on Yom Kippur. And Rav Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev turns to God and says, what a nation, what a holy nation. Here's a man standing in the middle of the streets of Barditchev, smoking openly on Yom Kippur, Shechal Liot b'Shabbat, but he will not utter a lie from his mouth. His words are so pure, his words are so true. That's an approach. That's an approach. And I hope someday we can get somewhere along this line of an approach. I think that this is the approach that's supposed to be taken in terms of our defense of the Jewish people. It's been recorded several times in the name of the Chazon Ish, based on his teachings in Yoreh De'ah, that maybe the laws of Rasha, whatever Rasha means, that there are certain laws, certain halachic category of Risha'im, that maybe they don't apply, Bizman Hazeh. Maybe it's easy to condemn people and call them all Risha'im. But maybe, says the Chazon Ish, maybe we don't really know how to rebuke properly. If you don't know how to rebuke, so how are you going to get anybody to follow the proper pathway of righteousness? Rav Kook said that if you give the most beautiful rebuke in French, you give the greatest arguments to the person, you're speaking French to him. the person only speaks German and he doesn't understand what you're talking about, and you haven't fulfilled the commandment of rebuke because he doesn't understand what you're saying. You could be giving the greatest arguments, but he doesn't understand. So often we talk and we talk. Do you think the person understands what you're talking about? Chazon Ish speaks about how you have to understand that so many people, they've never heard proper rebuke. They've never seen open miracles of God. Can we call them Risha'im? And what about the category of Tinokot and Ishbu? The babies, the young children who've been taken into captivity. Can we speak about the entire generation? Or major portions of the generation? Who are Tinokot and Ishbu? They've never seen or understood or been exposed to proper Torah. Can we understand that the suffering that our nation went through at so many different points, can that suffering be used in defense of the Jewish people? God forbid, I'm not saying that anyone should Chas v'Shalom forsake Torah observance. But if there is one person somewhere, or a few people still left, who are not openly connected, maybe we have to understand this is a generation that saw so much suffering. Can the pogroms and the Holocaust be used in defense of those who have left Torah practice? I once met a person who told me that after the Holocaust, they couldn't say brachot. They couldn't recite blessings to God. This woman saw her parents being murdered right in front of her face. I'm not saying that what she did was correct. I'm surely not going to to judge her. But is that the way to look at it? Is, oh well, she's terrible because she doesn't want to recite blessings? Or do you understand the context? Do you understand the Sanegorial Yisrael? Maybe is your face shining with the defense of the Jewish people? And one of the outstanding examples of that in Tanakh is Gid'on. Because according to one rabbinic tradition, if we read in the book of Judges, the 6th chapter, you read a story of Gideon. And Gideon is functioning at a time where the Jewish people unfortunately left the pathway of God. And the people of the Midianites are attacking all the time. And Gideon, who is privy to a special message of the angel of God, he says, is God really with us? Where is God? Bi Adoni, v'yesh Hashem imanu. So why are we going through so much suffering? Vayei kol niflotav. Where are all the miracles? Where are all the wonders? Asher sipru lanu avoteinu lemar. Alom mitzrayim hel lanu Hashem. We heard so much in Jewish history about God helping us and defending us. V'atan tashanu Hashem. God has forsaken us. And then God, this was his encounter with the angel. If you look at the text, it says right after that, it says, Vayifen elav Hashem. God turns to Gideon and says, use this power and go save the whole Jewish people. According to one rabbinic tradition, it says that the story took place on Pesach. And he says to the angel, last night we were reading about God doing miracles in Egypt. Well, God, if they were righteous in Egypt, so save us in their merit. And if they weren't so righteous in Egypt, so you saved them. Why can't you save us? Use this power that you've just spoken of. Use the power of defense of the Jewish people, and bring salvation to the entire Jewish people. What's the koach? The Midrash teaches the koach hazechut hazeh shalimarta sanegorya al banai. The great defense of the Jewish people. Moshe, our leader of leaders, maybe all the leaders, the defenders of Am Yisrael, the leaders of our nation, are those who are shining with the light of God on their faces, because they're always constantly defending our holy nation. Thank you so much for listening. Sarah Shirel ben Lorraine.
נחום בן אסתר. נחום בן אסתר.
אסתר חיה בת ציפורה. ציפורה בת גיטל טובה. חיה בת שיינדו. פרומה בת סורמה.